just a few moments here, we are expecting officials in New York City to give us an update regarding this morning's subway shooting.
As we told you at the top of the hour here on KCAL 9 News at 4, there is a huge manhunt right now underway in New York City and in surrounding areas, obviously, with the gunman and the person who was suspected of putting the smoke bomb inside the subway this morning is accused of that and actually got away from the scene after injuring at least 17 people. I mean, this was during the morning rush hour, Juan. It was a time when, obviously, we were just talking about it, when so many people are just going about their day, for their commutes.
Kids were going to school,
exactly.
As we heard from that 15-year-old, right? Well, definitely very, very much of a concern. Apparently, we understand this suspect put on a gas mask, then set off a smoke bomb inside a crowded morning train, and then started shooting in a subway station. We know at least a dozen people were sent to the hospital. And while a lot of that investigation is happening in New York City, off in the Brooklyn area, we understand they did find this unoccupied U-Haul van. My guess is that is what we're going to possibly be hearing about. Maybe they've identified the gunman. They have a name. What they've actually done, they've taken about a 4-mile radius from the shooting, and they've blocked off the area. They've started clearing businesses, going business to business in hopes of finding that gunman. Let's go to the news conference. It looks like it's starting right now.
Provide an update on the ongoing investigation into the shooting that occurred earlier today in Brooklyn. We're going to hear from Police Commissioner of the City of New York, Keechant Sewell, Chief of Department Ken Corey, we have First Deputy Commissioner Ed Caban here, Chief of Detectives James Essig will update us on the investigation. We also have Assistant Director in charge of the FBI, in charge of the New York office, Mike Driscoll, and the JTTF efforts with the NYPD that are ongoing, as well as the Special Agent in charge of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, John DeVito. But we'll begin with word from Gracie Mansion from the Mayor of the City of New York, Eric Adams.
We can't hear him. He's talking. We can't. He's talking, but we cannot hear the mayor.
Okay, we want to work on the audio on our end. His audio going out.
Apparently the mayor's microphone was not working there. They were trying to get to him first. So we're going to go through a series of speakers here again, updating us on this New York subway mass shooting still under investigation. As I was mentioning earlier, there was a big focus around a van with Arizona license plates that they believe belonged to the shooter. It was found in Brooklyn. They've secured the area around that van. Okay, let's go back to the news conference.
And as you were talking about, Juan, the suspect who police are still looking for this evening is described by police as a man of heavy build. We heard that, wearing a green construction-type vest and a hooded sweatshirt. Again, several hours after the shooting, remaining at large. Let's go back to the news conference now.
It's so important. We are truly fortunate that this was not significantly worse than it is. As we reported this afternoon, a man who was traveling on a Manhattan-bound N train opened 2 canisters that dispensed smoke throughout the subway car. He then shot multiple passengers as the train pulled into the 36th Street station in Sunset Park. 10 people were injured by gunfire, and an additional 13 were either injured as they rushed to get out of the train station or they suffered smoke inhalation. Some good news is that none of the injuries appear to be life-threatening. As detectives processed the crime scene, they recovered a 9mm semi-automatic handgun, extended magazines, and a hatchet. Also found is a liquid we believe to be gasoline and a bag containing consumer-grade fireworks and a hobby fuse. About an hour ago, detectives located a U-Haul van in Brooklyn that we believe is connected to the suspect. At this time, we still do not know the suspect's motivation. Clearly, this individual boarded the train and was intent on violence. We are conducting a highly coordinated investigation that includes NYPD detectives, the FBI NYPD Joint Terrorism Task Force, and the ATF, who have been instrumental in tracing the firearm and ballistics. The suspect is a dark-skinned male and was wearing a neon orange vest and a gray-colored sweatshirt. We do have a person of interest in this investigation, but we need the public's assistance with additional information. We're asking anyone with information to call Crime Stoppers at 800-577-TIPS. We know this incident is of grave concern to New Yorkers. We cannot lose sight of victims in this city. We will use every resource we can to bring those to justice who continue to prey on the citizens of New York. I'll ask Chief James Essig to come in and give details of the investigation.
Good evening, everybody. Today at 8:24 a.m., aboard a Manhattan-bound N train, 10 people were shot, 7 males, 3 females, and they were removed to area hospitals. An additional 13 people suffered injuries related to smoke inhalation, falling down, or a panic attack. The information I'm about to give you is preliminary and it's subject to change right now. As that N train was between stations 59th Street and the 36th Street stations, seated in the second car in the rear corner was a dark-skinned male. Various descriptions of his height are given. He is heavy-set, wearing an orange-green nylon-type construction vest. He also had on a gray hoodie, a surgical mask, and a neon green construction helmet. As the train approached the 36th Street station, witnesses state the male opened up 2 smoke grenades, tossed them on the subway floor, brandishes a Glock 9mm handgun. He then fired that weapon at least 33 times, striking 10 people. The male then fled the scene, and detectives are actively trying to determine his whereabouts. Recovered at that scene was a Glock 17 9mm handgun, 3 extended Glock-type magazines. 1 was still in the weapon, 1 under a seat, and 1 in a backpack. We had 33 discharged shell casings, 15 bullets, 5 bullet fragments, 2 detonated smoke grenades, 2 non-detonated smoke grenades, a hatchet, a black garbage can, a black milk-type style rolling cart, the gasoline, and a U-Haul key. The U-Haul key at the scene led us to the recovery of a U-Haul van a short while ago in Brooklyn. The male, who we believe is the renter of this U-Haul in Philadelphia, is a Frank R. James, male, 62 years old, with addresses in Wisconsin and Philadelphia. We are endeavoring to locate him to determine his connection to the subway shooting, if any. The 2 crime scenes, the subway and the van, are very active and are still being processed. We are asking for anyone's help with information, cell phone video, witness information, or if they can identify the perpetrator or the renter of this vehicle, to call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-577-TIPS. There is a $50,000 reward out right now. $25,000 from the New York City Police Foundation, $12,500 from the MTA, and $12,500 from the TWA Local 100. I just want to assure everyone that we in the NYPD have all our resources working this, along with our partners in the FBI and the ATF, to find this perpetrator. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Mike Driscoll.
We're gonna
the
go
mayor?
back to the mayor,
Okay.
assuming we've resolved that issue.
Mr. Mayor, we're ready for you.
Commissioner and Chief. As we indicated, today was a difficult day for New York. And days like these are playing out too often in cities across America. As mentioned this morning, we witnessed an act of violence and evil in the heart of Brooklyn, where shooter attacked a subway car full of innocent people at the 36th Street station. We saw a quiet Tuesday morning turn the M-train into a war zone as a smoke bomb was detonated and multiple shots rang out. We witnessed 20 individuals have been injured so far, as it was mentioned. And thanks to the quick thinking of the MTA crew and the bravery and cooperation of passengers, lives were saved. And thanks to our first responders, the injured were quickly taken to area hospitals, and all of them are expected to recover. You know, I have been realistic and outspoken about my commitment to protecting public safety. I stand by that and will continue to do everything in my power to protect the rivers that feed the sea of violence. But this is not only a New York City problem. This rage, this violence, these guns, these relentless shooters are an American problem. And it's going to take all levels of government to solve it. It's going to take the entire nation to speak out and push back against the cult of death that has taken hold in this nation. A cult that allows innocents to be sacrificed on a daily basis. A country where buying weapons of mass destruction is as easy as picking up a piece of plywood or a garden shovel. A country where there are more guns than people. There are over 400 million guns in this country alone. The U.S. gun homicide rate is 26 times that of other high-income countries. Where over 100 people die in gun violence every day. Guns are the leading cause of death for American children and teens, like the 16-year-old baby we lost in the Bronx. Columbine, Sandy Hook in Virginia, to music festivals in Las Vegas, to nightclubs in Orlando, to and yoga classes across the nation. These killers have used weapons of mass destruction to massacre innocent people. They control no armies or military forces, yet these individual killers terrorize our nation. I've often said that this city is not going to adapt to dysfunction. Ending gun violence means changing gun laws. We cannot clean up a flood when the water is still pouring into the basement. And we can never stop the killing if we cannot stop the guns. To be clear, we will not surrender our city to the violent few, and we will not surrender all of America to this cult of death. The sea of violence comes from many rivers. We must dam every river that feeds the greater crisis. That is the work of my life, this administration, and this police department. I will not stop until the peace we deserve becomes the reality we experience. You have my word as a former police officer, a fellow New Yorker, and your mayor, that we will end this epidemic, and that will capture the individual responsible for today's attack. We will capture him and prosecute him to the full extent of the law. Thank you, NYPD, FDNY, our first responders, and the collaboration from the federal government and state and city agencies.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to turn it over to Assistant Special
That was the mayor of New York City, Mayor Eric Adams, giving us an update on the subway shooting in his city this morning. Officials believe they know who the suspect is. The name being given at this news conference just now, we've heard it for the first time today, Frank R. James. He's 62 years old. He has addresses in both Philadelphia and in Wisconsin, and he is a person of interest because he is a person who is listed as the renter of a U-Haul truck that was found not too long ago in Brooklyn, and that could be related to this case.
All right, stay with KCAL 9 News and CBS News Los Angeles.